Hello! Very good evening to you. Welcome to an extremely special episode of the SAP's podcast. This is our Season 1 review of HBO's The Leftovers. We've done all 10 episodes individually, but you already know that. Of course, you've listened to them multiple times. You've reviewed us on iTunes, 5-star reviews, and all the rest of it. But so today we're going to be going over Season 1 as a whole. But before we get into all that, as always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Sam, joined by my two, I'm just going to say fantastic co-hosts. First of all, Ant.
Sam, when you say good evening to everyone, I'm just hoping they listen to it in the evening. What if they listen to it in the morning?
Well,
they know, off guard, mate.
They know that I'm thinking of them in the evening. Each and every evening when I'm alone, I'm thinking of them.
I think you're thinking of Kevin, but yeah.
Thought, please.
And that's your other co-host, Phil.
Evening all. I can't believe we're here at the end of the season.
I mean, it's gone quick, hasn't it, to be fair?
Flown by. I can't believe it.
It's been a real haul with you guys.
Well, our backs have been hurting, Ant, from carrying you across 10
After the chiropractor, yeah.
Carrying that wet lettuce. No, but like I say, this week, usually we go through episode by episode, breaking down the episodes, talking about all the theories, telling, Phil why he's wrong most of the time, to be fair. But this episode, like I say, it's not going to be as long as the previous ones. I think we've been clocking in at, over an hour and a half. Yeah, well, I know, yeah. We've read the complaints. No, but so like I say, we're just going to go over a few points. I think we're going to cover our favourite episodes, our favourite characters, and just a bit of general discussion about the first season, just as a little debrief, because trust me, straight from the start of the second season, from the first scene, there's a lot to break down. So we'll just take the week off from all that deep discussion and let's just have a little informal chat. So I think let's just get straight into it. And Ant, I'm coming to you first. I want to know, Season 1, what was your favourite episode?
For me, it was Matt's individual episode, so 2 boats and a helicopter. Episode 3. I think following the one character is great. It's the first time they do that. I think it's stronger than Nora's episode, which, is already strong. You see, Matt's struggle and, also a different side to him, like that pernicious kind of, I don't know quite what the word is.
I don't know what that word is either.
Pernicious?
Yeah, I've never heard that word before. I'm not being facetious. I also know big words.
God blimey, yeah, the vocab's coming out, isn't it? Pernicious, facetious. I'm just there like, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was a little nasty. And when he was in the car park after winning the casino, I think I actually stood up. I was like willing him on, to like to either drive off or to fight back. It was I thought it was really well done. It really makes you invested because it is a bit of a hard series to kind of get to grips with from the off. They don't give you any kind of easy answers or anything. But no, I appreciated the journey, and there's the hint of the supernatural there as well, so all good from me.
No, that's it. I mean, before we go to Phil, I'll just chime in because I've got the same answer. Because I remember when I first watched the first 2 episodes, I remember thinking the pilot was pretty good and an interesting world, but okay, where are they going to go from it? Episode 2, it was kind of like a bit more of the same, but episode 3 was when I was watching it and I was like, okay, this program has really got my attention and it's really doing something quite special. The way that they just put the brakes on the whole plot and focused in on this one character that you'd seen glimpses of in the first couple of episodes, but without really understanding anything about him. And then not only are they going to give you a bit more detail, they're going to focus a whole episode in on there. And then they're going to show you that, quite a few characters, he's got really kind of polar opposites to him. There's some things and you think, okay, that's like a really good aspect of his character and he seems like a nice man, but then he does other things and you think, okay, I'm not sure about that. And all the stuff with Nora, particularly in that episode, and you're thinking, that seems like a really dickish thing to do. And like you can just get so much detail and discussion like we had just from a character rather than just going over the plot points and the world building. So like I say, for me, it's episode 3 as well, because I remember watching it for the first time and just thinking, okay, this program's operating on different levels to most of them now.
I think it really needed that, because I think if it was just more of the same episode 3, I don't think it would have been quite as strong, because I think with the leftovers, I think quite a lot of people kind of fall by the wayside a little bit. They might get to, give it a couple of episode 3, the deer and everything, and they might be, I'm not getting this. But I think even if you haven't watched the previous two, you could probably still get on well with Matt's episode. So it was good pacing.
Yeah, Phil, do you think, before we come on to your answer, do you think if they didn't do that and every episode was all world building and plot and everything, do you think it would become a little bit too much?
I think it would become a little too much, and I think with the problem with a program like it's not really a problem, but if they tried to do that, there's only so much. One of the great things about The Leftovers is the lack of answers that you get. There's only so much world building you can do without giving people new information, if that makes sense. So I think it kind of limits how big a world they can create before they need to start giving you more answers about what's actually been happening.
Sure.
So I think they've got to balance that, and I think they've done that superbly.
So what about your favourite episode then?
Ooh, I've got to admit.
When I lost my belly.
So to start off with, there's not been a bad episode. I think all the episodes, there's not been an episode that I haven't thoroughly enjoyed. I've got to say, I think I did really enjoy episode 3, and that's, as you've said, that's when I knew this program was going to be special, because like Ant was saying, I was almost shouting at the screen for Matt to, just drive off after he left the casino. And especially as Matt was quite a very background character prior to this episode. I think
he was on the periffs.
He was on the peripheral, exactly.
It's just like handing out leaflets in episode 1, isn't it?
Exactly. And considering I had very little knowledge of Matt, episode 3, and it's all about Matt, was absolutely fantastic. It was so well done. But I think my favourite episode is going to have to be episode 9, and I think that's because it added so much to my, to kind of explaining what's been going on the world before the departure, and I think it added a lot to the story to me. It added a lot of value to the series, to kind of show where they were and everything wasn't fine.
It's interesting. Now. It's interesting, isn't it, that all three of us have gone for character driven episodes. So obviously, specifically for Matt, but then Garvey's at their best, which obviously gives you more details about a lot of the characters in there. Because for a program that you would is so heavy on the symbolism and the world building and all that kind of thing, for us it shows what a good job they're doing not to forget about the characters as well, because you find that with some programs that it's like, okay, this is an interesting world and all that kind of thing, but I don't care about any of these people.
I think another good episode that would deserve a shout out is Nora's episode. I think I quite like the fact of how much I think is it one of the only episodes that you really kind of leave Mapleton with another character, actually see the rest of the world.
Well, apart from with Tom, obviously.
But like one of the other characters, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean. So I quite liked that, and I thought it's brilliantly acted. It really takes you on kind of Nora's journey. For me,
he had a great cold opening, didn't it? With like the sex worker coming around and getting shot.
Angel. Angel coming around and shooting her.
Yeah, I think I really liked Nora's episode. I really thought episode 9 was interesting and enjoyable. I think episode 10 probably deserves a shout as well. The way it ties in quite a lot of different things. You've got all the main characters coming back. You've got the chaos at the end. You've got Matt helping out Kevin. It's all a bit dodgy. You got Holy Wayne coming into it. I think you got
some great acting performances in that episode as well. Obviously, Carrie Coon when Nora sees the dolls, Justin Theroux when he's kind of breaking down. I'm blanking on the actor's name now, but the guy that plays Holy Wayne, or what is he in Peep Show again?
Yeah, he's in Peep Show. That's the only thing I know him from.
Is it Johnson? Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Alan Johnson.
Yeah. I can't believe I allowed this to happen on my watch. Yes.
But even he's only in it for the one scene. Deliver some great performances. So actually, we haven't got this in the doc, but I'll just throw it out there. So we've said quite a lot about in previous episodes about great performances that some of the cast deliver. Is there anyone in the season, not to pick on any actors or anything, but that just didn't really do it for you in terms of their performance, or like the way they portrayed a particular character?
Good question. I'd say I wasn't really bought in with Laurie before episode 9. Because I know she's silent and everything, but some of the facial expressions weren't massive. But I guess that's the idea. You kind of want to hate her.
Yeah, no.
That escalated a bit. Yeah, I didn't quite buy into it. I don't want to hate her.
Yeah, I didn't like her facial expressions.
No, but that, you know what I mean. It's like, you know, they don't tee her up to be like a good person.
Yeah, they're not trying to make her be likable, are they?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's any obvious candidate, you know, someone that sticks out, oh, you know, they're phoning it in. I thought, you know.
Well, not phoning it in, but just not saying that they've even done a particularly bad job. It just doesn't quite land for you for whatever reason. Phil, anything for you? Or
I think Phil on this podcast.
I mean, the only candidates I can think of, and go fuck yourself. The only people I can think of are the twins.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think Sam's going to be too surprised by that comment.
Well, Phil, I think you're being really harsh there. I think they bring a lot to the program. They deliver great level. No, they can fuck off.
But you know, in terms of the actors who read the script, I mean, what could they have done that makes you buy into it even more?
Yeah,
they are,
you
know, they are that character.
It's true. You're right. They're limited by the characters they've got to play. But I think if you took, and maybe that's part of the problem, is just actually that the characters don't really add much. I think other than one episode where they actually kind of explain to the audience what the gun means.
Yeah,
but this is a different question, isn't it? This is which characters don't we think are good?
All right then, let's pivot into that, because I was gonna go to that as my next question, actually, because we're going to do favourite characters. But okay, we've got the twins, and I think, you know, obviously we've discussed them a lot.
We don't have the twins. You guys have got the twins. We don't.
I love the twins. No,
they're my favourites.
But in terms of like, I'll take the lead on this next one. Well, I'll give my answer first, but like in terms of characters that for me just don't really do it, even if the storyline is that interesting, is quite interesting. I can't lie, like Tom really like doesn't really do it for me. The Holy Wayne stuff is really interesting, but I just find Tom a little bit one-dimensional in that, you know, even in tricky situations, he always does what you would think is like the good thing. You don't see much kind of like inner conflict within him. You know, he seems like no, exactly. He seems like he's a decent guy, like all told. Like he tries to look after Christine and all that kind of thing. And so I don't know, like when we're talking about Kevin and Matt and, you know, Laurie and all these other characters where there's, you know, real kind of ends of the spectrum that you can analyse about them. With Tom, it's just like, oh yeah, he's there, he's okay, I guess, but never particularly excited.
I mean, he does. Well, it appears he's abandoned, without having seen season 2. It appears he's abandoned a child on his dad's doorstep.
But I'm not being funny. You look at the situation that he's in. He's pretty much on the run from the police. He's got no money to survive on. I don't think he's there abandoning the child. If he was abandoning the child, he'd just put it anywhere. He probably knows that kid is going to have a better life with his dad, who's got a job, and, you know, he doesn't know that he's having his own difficulties. But, you know, he's got a job and everything. He'll be able to give that kid a better life than he will.
I think, for me, you know, I've said before, Jill. I think pre-episode 9, I think she somewhat becomes more likeable when you see what she's like before, and obviously right at the end she seemed, well, you know, supposedly she's renounced her GR vows, if you like. But for me, wasn't massive on Jill. I think you could probably take her out of the show and you wouldn't really lose that much. I kind of thought I'd dislike Meg more. You know,
how can you dislike Arwen?
But do you see what I mean? It's like she kind of like runs away and is a bit provocative. I don't know. I think Jill. Again, I think she's a character that you're not really supposed to like that much, because she never does anything in the series that kind of makes you like her, apart from the very occasional not blaming her father for, you know, the divorce and things. There was a few moments where she kind of gets a bit of absolution because she actually
opens up and you see something quite sincere with her. She doesn't really get many opportunities to be anything other than what feels like a very moody teenager.
No, I mean, there's quite a few characters, aren't there, that seem to have like hero story vibes to them. Kevin, I don't know, you could say that about Matt and maybe even Tom. You know, like I say, you could see them as the heroes of their own story. But Jill, like you say, doesn't really have any of those kind of moments afforded to her, does she?
No, she doesn't. She doesn't. You know, apart from. Does she bring the baby Jesus back, or is it still the fake one at the end? I'm just trying to remember how that ends.
No, it's the one Matt replaced.
Yeah,
Matt
it is the fake one. Yeah. So she never really gets a chance to redeem herself to the audience.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from characters that maybe we weren't so hot on, let's talk about characters that we are hot on. We all know what my answer is going to be.
Yeah, we know where this is going.
I mean. Just you know, anyone who doesn't know what we're on about, just watch the first minute. Just watch him running. That's all you need to see. All right then, Phil. Who's your favourite character from the first season?
Ooh, favourite character again coming in. I would actually go with. I quite liked Nora's character, and I think because the actress who plays Nora does a fantastic job of it.
Shouts out to Carrie Coon.
Thank you. Carrie Coon does a fantastic job. I really felt like I went on a journey with her character. You know, coming from the woman who gave that speech on the first Heroes Day to, you know, someone who was contemplating suicide. Just a really, really interesting character who kind of went from what seems like slightly broken, maybe. You know, broken, depressed, to actually kind of that end where again she has peaks and troughs. She gets the hug from Holy Wayne and she suddenly feels a lot better, seems like a much more approachable character, much easier to relate to, and then has a bit of a break when she finds the dolls at the breakfast table, and then right at the end that almost optimism and hope when she's there like, look what I found, holding up a new baby. So you know, it felt like a very genuine journey I went on with Nora's character, and that's why she's one of my favourites.
She's a very real character, isn't she? Like they're not trying to, you know, make it out almost that it's like she's lost her whole family, but hey, look, she's absolutely fine and all this. It's like, yeah, she's, you know, really, really been cut deep from it, and she struggles with it, of course, throughout the whole season. And obviously, when characters are real, you can relate to them a bit more, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. Her hurt felt very genuine, but I also quite like she's one of the few, you know, kind of her and Kevin's relationships are one of the very few things in this TV series that kind of almost gave you a little bit of hope. You know, kind of things like her joking with Kevin outside the divorce court. You know, joking again with the GR members.
Fuck your daughter.
Pardon? Oh yeah, fuck you. Want to go to Miami?
They've got instant chemistry, them two, haven't they? Like,
yes.
And the actors, you know, play that off like really well. But the only thing I do think of as well, though, is when we talk about giving them hope, is that scene after they've just gotten down and dirty. But like when I think Kevin's about to tell her about her problems, and she kind of just says like, hey, don't worry about it or whatever, and you're just like, okay, it's the same problems again, just they're not telling each other how they really feel, but it's more that short term like, oh hey, this feels nice, but you know, without addressing the actual problems. But and who you saying is your favourite character?
So although I do like Nora's character and I really like Kevin's character, and just to build the tension a bit more, honourable mention to the twins just because of how much they annoy you guys. And an honourable mention to my man Dean as well.
Oh, Dog Killer D.
You know, steals the show, and there's lots to talk about.
Because we're friends.
My actual favourite character is Matt, purely because although he doesn't have as much screen time as Kevin, he doesn't have, you know, the obvious kind of portrayal of mental illness and that kind of deepness that Kevin's got. I think that is probably the most interesting character for me, because he appears genuinely good on the surface, but you know, he does have his moments and his times where he looks a bit more sinister, and his scenes are always a bit more punchy, I feel, as well. But you know, Kevin is coming out a close second for me, purely because, you know, obviously the most happens with him as well. It's hard, isn't it, to pick a favourite because they're all good in their own ways, and I don't really think there's a particularly weak main character, if you like. You know, even whether you'd call Holy Wayne and Tom main characters is debatable, but I think Matt for me, yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to go. Sorry, Phil, what was you going to...
Oh, the only thing I was going to say is more just... I know we've kind of maybe skipped past it, but I was trying to think more like Garvey Senior and trying to really understand what he's brought to this season. I think you've insinuated that he adds more later on. I think we're talking about certain scenes are very important. But I was just thinking about that then. I was just thinking, well, actually, Garvey Senior for me hasn't really added that much to this. And, you know, maybe I'm forgetting entire scenes, but...
Yeah.
Do you know what the thing is with Garvey Senior though? I don't think he's meant to. Like, he's not in it very much at all. And when he is in it, he's talking to himself and talking nonsense a lot of the time. Like, you're not there to really resonate with him or anything like that. I feel like with Tom, it was meant to be a little bit more like, oh, look at this great guy and, you know, all this. And it just never landed for me. But with Garvey Senior, he is there to pull Kevin into that plot a little bit more, to, you know, do interesting world building and all that kind of thing, rather than be like a real character in of himself.
Possibly. The only real value I thought he could add was kind of, because of his own mental health issues, kind of triggering Kevin off to wonder if he's also suffering from the same problems. That's the only real kind of... That's what he adds. It's just that kind of... This would explain why Kevin might be hallucinating or seeing things or acting out.
See, Garvey Senior is actually quite interesting because the way he talks to the voices, it's almost like he's got access to like a radio station and he's tuned into that, and other people can tune into it. That's the way I perceive it anyway. It's like his voices are the same voices that Dean's got. And, you know, there's clearly a mystical element to the show. So I would personally, I would disregard the thought that he's just talking gibberish. I actually think there's something there, and he's not just totally kind of mentally shot, if you like.
Mm.
Well, and also the fact that he's Kevin's dad and everything, like, it's clearly meant to be, you know, a bit of a parallel or not a parallel, almost like foreshadowing for like what seems like could well happen to Kevin. You know, and seemingly when, I know my kind of opinion on things at the end, you know, when he's embracing the dog and that he's embracing that kind of side of the story a little bit more, and you're thinking, okay, well, he's probably not far away from being just like Garvey Senior, to be fair. But as we're talking about Kevin, I'll quickly say he is my favourite character, and so he's not the person that I like the most, or, you know, I think he's the best, you know, a great role model or anything, but I just think he's, you know, just such an interesting and like entertaining character when he's on screen. Partly because he just links into everything. Obviously, he's there with he's got his own plot. He's involved in Matt's plot a little bit. He's involved in Nora's plot. You know, obviously Jill's and, you know, all that kind of thing, and Patty's and Laurie's and, you know, everything. And I just go so back and forth on him as well. As we've talked about kind of at length in previous episodes, he'll do something and you think, okay, this, you know, seems like he's getting better, or, you know, that was a good thing to do. And you think, come on, Kevin, just a bit more like that and you'd be such a nice guy. But then he'll go and, you know, abuse his power as a policeman and attack someone, or, you know, do something like that, and you think, oh, fuck's sake, man. Like I say, like, for me, I have quite not an emotional, but quite a visceral reaction to him when he does something good. I think, yeah, go on. And then when he does something bad, I think, fuck's sake, you dickhead. Like, you know. But no, like I say, probably a cop-out answer because he's the main character. But, yeah, Kevin all the way, man. Shouts out to Justin Theroux as well. My man brings it in this episode because, like I say, or I have said in previous episodes, I think he brings levels to his performance that I don't think he'd particularly shown before. But so that's a bit of, you know, wank fest over the leftovers. So another question that we haven't prepared in the doc that I'm just going to spring on you a bit. So talking about season 1 overall, do you have any overall criticisms? So it could be anything. We'll try and stay away from the characters, you know, because we've already kind of done that. But, Ants, have you got anything that you think just didn't quite work for you, they could have done better overall?
I think it's not. It's a bit of a strange answer. It's not really a criticism from me, but it's something I could understand if other people had it. It's the kind of show that you kind of need to watch and talk about to fully understand everything. And it's a bit of a weak criticism because obviously I hope, are understanding most of it, and there's always going to be things we've missed. But I think it's only really maybe until episode 9 you kind of get some fairly obvious clues and some obvious answers on some things. So it makes you work, but I like that.
Totally agree. It definitely is a program made for rewatching, so I've obviously got that benefit. But for me, one thing that even on this third rewatch that I didn't really enjoy in the first time, and I didn't really enjoy the second time, I've mentioned about Tom and stuff, but I think again some of the stuff with Jill, and I know we've made jokes about it, but like with the twins, and Amy's a good character. Like as we've discussed, like there seems to be something a bit strange going on with her. But then basically everyone else, like whenever she's in the fridge or at the beach and they're all smoking weed, or at a party, I'm just like, okay, I'm not really feeling this. Like this isn't what I'm after from this program. It just doesn't really do anything for me apart from the scenes usually just end with Jill doing something. So I don't know, smoking a joint, or with the baby Jesus or something like that, and then just like looking quite somber, and you're like, okay, Jill isn't happy. Yeah, we know, like without really doing much else. So for me, that's not really doing that much for me.
No,
Phil, go on.
I'd agree. I think as well, in terms of continuity and world building and kind of internal logic, I think the only thing I've really ever mentioned before is the fact that when Tom sees the other couple with the Asian girl, and is he like an Irish guy, and she's like, oh, there's others, and it kind of doesn't make any sense, because when there's the raid on the ranch by the feds, I swear a lot of the Asian girls are pregnant at that stage. And it kind of doesn't make any sense how none of them would know that any of the others were pregnant and have been told they're special.
I think that was kind of the point, though, wasn't it? It was kind of you as the audience weren't supposed to know. Oh, sorry. No, I think I know what you mean. Sorry. No, ignore me. Sorry. I got the wrong end of the stick there. Sorry, Andy.
So that's the reason Tom runs away with Christine, right? Because she's pregnant at that point. And then she needs to deliver the baby.
He doesn't know that she's pregnant at that point.
Yeah, I think you see them getting along quite well, don't you? And Holy Wayne obviously thinks that he's trying to stick it on her a bit. But I do know what you mean, where it's like, oh, there's others, but we've seen lots of Asian women all hanging around together, like at the pool or at the ranch and stuff. And obviously, they probably don't know that they're each like sleeping with Holy Wayne, or presumably they are. But so Phil, have you got anything to add, like in terms of like something from season 1 that you didn't particularly enjoy, or shall we move on?
I'm gonna be honest. There's not. The only
That's
thing
it. This program's a 10/10.
Yeah, fuck it. The only thing I wasn't just that keen on Doug Killer Dean. I know. Whoa! I know. I'm throwing it out there.
That is sacrilege
but,
to say
his
in
character,
this podcast.
Because we're friends. Or I just didn't kind of. I maybe it's more because I didn't.
Wasn't that high pitched?
All right, maybe I'm exaggerating for effect, but I just thought he was a bit. I don't really understand the character, if that makes sense. I don't really understand who he was, what he was doing, and I assume the audience aren't really supposed to understand it. But I found that quite frustrating. That
is his character. I fully understand it, Phil, because he's supposed to be ambiguous.
No, the thing is, Phil, I do understand what you're saying, and this program does kind of skirt along the edge of, or on the borderline of kind of what's acceptable in terms of some things being like, okay, that's quite difficult to understand or whatever. But when it's like with Dean, when it's just like, okay, what is the point in this guy? He's killing dogs, and he seems like he's trying to get Kevin involved, but then he leaves him, and you're like, I'm the same. On my third watch, I still don't fully understand DKD. So no, I would be tempted to agree with you on that one, but he does have that line that makes me laugh. So for that reason, and that reason only, he gets a pass.
And maybe also just the use of dreams as well. I found that a little bit.
Yeah. Oh my God. How did I forget that? Yes,
Yeah.
please, Phil. Please.
Go on, Phil.
Yeah, I was almost going to let Ant kind of continue on that theme, because that's what first triggered me to disliking it, actually, was Ant brought it up, and I thought, yeah, you're right. I appreciate the dreams now in hindsight, where they actually, just where you're seeing he's maybe... Yeah, I still don't... I think they used it too much. Like, I didn't really like the dream in episode 10. That's almost one of my most disliked scenes, was just where he's, standing there, and he just wakes up like, oh, none of that was real, and did it really drive the plot in any way? No. Okay, move on.
Yeah, there is a ton of symbolism and stuff in the dreams to unpack, and him zoning out obviously plays a big part in Patty's abduction, which moves the plot along. But I swear, like, when you're in school, they kind of say, please never write, and it was all a dream. It's like what you can't do, and the show does it quite a lot. So, I think that'd be a criticism from me, and also probably my final point. And by the way, nothing I've said is like a massive criticism. It's trying to, find.
I mean, we all love this program, like,
just little things, but during lockdown, it is quite somber and quite serious, and we all need a bit of a pick me up, and that kind of, you could probably be a bit funnier in parts, but that's obviously deliberate. So.
Yeah, that's it. The comedic relief doesn't really, because I think the twins and that kind of thing are mainly in there, but they just come off more as annoying than actually. Whoa, no, but there's something that we've just talked about then, that after we've watched a future episode, I want to go back to this point and just be like, oh, I had to bite my tongue there.
I can imagine what you're referring to already, to a certain extent, because you mentioned it in the last episode that it was actually quite important.
Which Phil? Well, Phil, if you
no. Let's not discuss it. Let's just leave it. And then Phil,
when it comes to comic relief, that bit.
No, it wasn't that bit.
When it comes up in a future episode, Phil, I want you to say to me then, at that point, this is what I thought you was referring to.
Does Phil know because it was in the books?
No, nothing like that at all. Sam said something last week that insinuated the importance of a scene which I didn't particularly enjoy.
Oh, the dream sequence.
And can't we just leave it mysterious? I'm clearly there trying to just leave it to be a bit of a hint, and Ant's there like, no, what is it?
I was quite pleased with myself. Can't wait for that in 8 episodes' time, yeah.
But so, all right, moving on to our next segment. So, like I say, this program has a lot of theory discussion that can be brought up from it. There's lots of symbolism and themes and all that kind of thing. And I mean, fucking hell, we've managed to pad out a good few hours talking about this shit. So, Phil, is there one particular theory of yours, or, well, to be fair, of anyone's, or theme that we've kind of hit upon that, as we've been talking about it, you've thought, yeah, like I really like that. That's spot on.
One of the things that I have enjoyed, and I think it's prompted quite a few discussions amongst us, is, for instance, is Holy Wayne actually holy? Has he got some form of power that means that he can absorb other people's pain and appears to make him potentially a bit stronger or something? I quite liked, though I don't think he does, I like the fact, I know we discussed it in the last episode and several episodes, we actually kind of debated this. And I like the fact that the show is so well written that, to be honest, if it turns out in 5 episodes from now, actually he did have powers and other people can do the same thing, I would be okay with that. But actually, that's quite good. That's quite a good talking point about the show.
Yeah. Well, we discussed that at length in the previous one, didn't we? But yeah, it's like, it's not clear, is it? He either doesn't or he does, or it's a bit of a mix. He's a bit inaccurate sometimes. Yeah.
As we're on Holy Wayne, again, I'm going to throw this at you a little bit. Ant, you know the scene where Holy Wayne grants Kevin a wish, or says that he grants Kevin a wish. Have you got any inkling as to what you think Kevin's wish may have been?
I think I mentioned it before. So, like, I don't know, just his family to get back together. That's the only thing that springs to mind. But he could also be, just to stop having these kind of moments of delusion and mental illness.
I think your first interpretation was pretty solid, my friend. Given that he's literally freaking crying about his family in the scene before, That would seem to make sense. But and what about you in terms of a theory or a theme that you really, quite like, you quite buy into?
I do like the overall theme of you're not really sure where a lot of people's allegiances lie, especially with, like, Kevin and Matt. Well, maybe allegiance is the wrong word, but you're not quite sure if they're good or bad. They're a bit grey, which I do like. I think my favourite theme is, from the off, 2% of the world's population have gone and there's no explanation. And there's no explanation.
But are represented in every episode.
I was going to say, I thought you was going for, there's two shoes on his feet.
But yeah, so you're not given any kind of explanation as to why it's happened. So from the off, you've got the craziest thing that's probably ever happened in human history, no explanation. And that kind of sets up the whole idea of either there's something mystical or there's some sort of interaction with a simultaneous dimension. And you do see bits and pieces, whether it's it's very strong in Matt's episode, it's all throughout with Kevin. Phil has spotted various bits and pieces coming up, and obviously you've got the religious element with Job coming up and his passage and his signs on the on billboards. So for me, yeah, it's the mystical / otherworldly.
I'm going to pull you up on something a little bit. I'll not pull you up, but just press you slightly on it. When you say simultaneous dimension, that kind of thing, where's this come from?
It's come from Garvey Senior and his conversation with Kevin in the diner when Matt takes him,
Right.
and he's kind of like I can't remember his exact words, but like, you've been selected almost, and you need to tune in, that kind of thing. And just when he's talking to the voices, and Dean does it as well when he leaves Patty in the shed. I
still don't think he does, but I still disagree with you on that. I think he's literally just talking to Patty on the floor. I know we spoke about that before, but yeah,
it's probably
that's a classic misdirection. Is that
that's a minor point, but no, all right, no, that's fair enough then. In terms of, sorry, I'm just gonna go with mine now. But my favourite thing that we've kind of hit upon in talking about this episode is the idea that the dogs were kind of like pushing Kevin towards the more magical side of the plot. Kind of most obvious with them barking at night and kind of keeping him awake at time, but then he's seemingly falling asleep, but then whenever he wakes up he's done something a bit mad, which seems to kind of push him towards that side of the story. And then obviously the scene where he goes to walk away from the bin, but then the dog starts barking, and then he goes back towards the bin where he's put the National Geographic and stuff. That for me, when I was like, oh, okay, I've never picked up on that before, but it seems quite obvious now in watching it. And like I said earlier in this episode and a few times last week, the fact that he embraces the dog at the end after the show has seemingly kind of spelled out what that means has potentially ominous signs for Kevin going forward. But yeah, like I say, for me, that's something, okay, I like that. I feel like I've noticed something a bit different. I'm learning. But so before we kind of do a little overall thing, so obviously this podcast is about the leftovers, but for us it's about doing this podcast as well, and having this interaction. And obviously we've got no experience in doing it, and maybe I think it might be a little bit painful going back and listening to the first one. I mean, not saying that we're perfect.
First episode's going to be ropey as hell, isn't it?
I mean, not saying that we're perfect now or anything, but I think we're definitely a lot more comfortable doing it. But we have had quite a few laughs going through it. So, Ant, I want to know your favourite moments of doing the podcast so far.
It's definitely moments. So it's either Phil's moments of misspeaking with James Aldean.
Sorry, as we're talking about wrong names there, I'm just going to have to mention how all the different names that Phil has given Laurie.
Lauren.
Lauren.
Sorry, Laura. You kept calling her Laura for the time.
Lorraine, I think.
Laura, yeah, Lorraine. Sometimes, like, just in the doc
L?
as well.
He called it L at one point.
Yeah, he read out. That's it. That's it for, our listeners in the doc, so we don't have to write Laurie. Like, when I'm doing the summary of every scene, I'll just put L, and Phil just there says, yeah, and I think L.
It's like Death Note all over again. I think... and just some of the things that we talk about, whether it be the meaty points, that seemed to have lasted, every episode, every subsequent episode.
That burger analogy.
Oh, and the lettuce.
Oh, the buns.
And I think Phil's laugh as well. Like, obviously it's funny when we all crack up, but sometimes Phil, he kind of like, it's fantastic.
Phil's just very existence is one of my favourite moments in life. The moment he was born.
There are some funny things.
Literally born backwards. Yeah.
There are some funny things as well, like when we talk about, it's quite serious, like about the GR and the next moves, and it's like, and we're like, oh, they can dish it up, but they can't take it yet. or my man meditating or anything like that.
Oh yeah,
that's probably the most we've laughed, isn't it? Over one single thing. And do you know what? It's something that I'd never even really picked up on before. Like, he's just there, but then we were there like, yeah, Laurie's showing some doubts. She's going back, getting the lighter out the drain. But my man has no doubts whatsoever.
And I think just how we've been kind of world building ourselves, and the GR's just got a totally different name now.
Yeah, the world building of the SAPs podcast. Phil, have you got any kind of moments that stick out?
One of the key moments that sticks out to me has got to be, it was the first time Ant went. So, and I think this represents the 2%. And I remember you going, oh God, this is going to be a thing now. And then in every episode. And I think it was eventually, so that initially came up in, I think, like, episode 2 or 3.
Wasn't it the bagels? Yeah, it was the bagels.
Yeah, it was the bagels or something, wasn't it?
Oh God.
And then I love the fact
that was a solid point. I'll stand by that point.
No, and I'm fully with you on it.
Thanks,
but I
Phil.
think it was then.
No, you're not.
I'm fully with him on it. I completely agree. But I think
they
it was
disappear,
then,
Phil.
Yeah,
Sam, they disappear.
Yeah, exactly, disappear.
No, but they don't, do they? He gets them, finds them.
No, but he thinks they disappear, and then he finds them.
Well, how does that link into what's happened in the departure?
Yeah, but how do we know that doesn't happen? Maybe that's kind of
maybe they're somewhere else, mate.
Maybe they've all been.
Maybe
hiding.
they're in this. Maybe they're in this dimension that Garvey Senior can talk to.
But okay. But I think one of the things that leading on from that, I think it was when we finally broke you, and I think that was in episode 7 or 8, where you just went, and I've been looking for the whole episode trying to find something, and I couldn't see anything, and then you were there like. And then there's a salt and pepper shaker on the table, clearly representing the 2%. And I'm still like, we've broken him. We've finally broken Sam, this bulwark of kind of, sensibility on this podcast.
That's it, trying to keep the discussion. I'm listening to you two talk about your fucking wrong theories. And I'm just there, no, I've got to get involved. Yeah, I can't help it.
To 2%.
What makes it wrong, Sam? Is it the fact that nobody on the Reddit has said it, or is it the fact that it's so unique that
my man is calling me a plagiarist. Yet. No,
IMDb can't tell you everything, Sam.
Do you know what it is? It's the opposite. Fuck off, man. Do you know what it is? It's the opposite of like what a good theory is, because it's something that like is so basic. Like, there's going to be.
You never thought of it.
No, but because I'm
really obvious, but I never said it.
Because
I never said it yet.
No, it's because I'm actually looking things at a good point, not just seeing something where I'm not just looking for something where there's 2 of something.
Hang on, it's 2 versus 1 now.
Yeah,
so do you want to read into that?
Yeah. No, but you can literally do it with anything. There's 2 people in that scene. There's 2 chairs, and it's the
fact that you have got 2 bagels, but you've got 2 bagels disappearing. That was the origin, and then obviously it morphed into the burgers, the twins, and all the rest of it, and it became a bit of a meme.
Do you know what?
I just real solid foundations there, Sam. Strong core.
Do you know what? Obviously I've seen this whole series. I know what happens, but part of me does wish that, as we get into the last episode of season 3, that, we're going to find Nora's family, and they'll just be there eating a bagel. Okay. Yes, that bagel departed. Yes, that's it. Well, my favourite moment, I have to say, and this might sound a little bit like, I don't know, of a cop-out, but it literally is just like listening to you guys. Just like, and that sounds like I'm taking the piss, and maybe I am slightly. No, but like just listening to your guys' like theories, because I love this kind of thing, like watching a program or a film and like fucking talking about it, and you know, going to the cinema and then going for something to eat afterwards, and what did you think about that bit? So to actually have something dedicated to it, where two guys who are of reasonable intelligence.
That just seems so alien, going to the cinema and going for something to eat.
I know, yeah, fucking hell, but yeah, two guys
meeting up and discussing stuff. Whoa!
But you know, to actually sit and just discuss it, like it's good for me. I like it. I really do like it. Like I say, particularly in these fucking trying times, we all need, a bit of a release, don't we? But so
it's more productive than playing Gorod Crovey for the 20th time and failing.
And failing. Yeah. Fuck's sake. But so before we get into, just a few closing thoughts, Phil, I'm going to ask you a very simple question, and I want a, no more than one paragraph explanation. What would you rate The Leftovers Season 1 out of 10?
Oh, I would definitely give it a 9. 9, almost. You know what, 10. And I'll tell you why. Because of all the negatives that I have brought up. Sorry.
Oh, God.
What?
I was there like, and I just went that step further.
Yeah, you just took it, didn't you? 9.
Oh my God, cut that. No one wants to hear that. That's when we lose our whole listenership.
What listenership?
Go on, Phil.
Because it'll be a strong 9, possibly a 10, just purely because it took me about a good 3 minutes of racking my relatively, moderately sized... What was the word?
Hollow brain.
How did you describe, Antony, my reasonably sized brain?
2 men of reasonable intelligence.
That's it.
I won't stand for this, Phil. I think we need a better host. I think we could start a spin-off.
He only casts shade because he's insecure, and that's how I've decided to see
that's
this.
bullies, isn't it? They are insecure.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Do you know what? I would fucking love to see a podcast where Ant hosts it and decides where it goes. I would love to see that.
I can make your dream a reality, mate, next week. Good riddance.
Hashtag Ant out on Twitter.
Let's get it trending. But
Ant out.
Come on, Phil. 10 out of 10. Come on.
Sorry, 10 out because it took me so long to think of a genuine criticism of the show, and even then, that criticism was so minor that I'm almost worried if they did take it out, it turns out it did add something that I didn't realise.
Yeah.
So there's very few things that, I can't think of what they could do better.
It's bold. Ant, what are you giving it?
I'd give it a 9 as well. I mean, it's very deep. There's a lot to go off. It doesn't spoon feed you everything. It's not like Emily in Paris, which, everything kind of works out well and there's no kind of open plot points. I mean, the whole premise is fascinating, isn't it? Something mad happens and there's no explanation. But focusing on the characters are really strong. They decide to do different things, like the flashback episode on episode 9, which is crazy if you think about it. Then the character-driven episodes. It's probably not quite a 10 because I don't think anything's perfect. But I've certainly thought more about The Leftovers than I have a lot of other shows. And that's not just because of, this podcast. It's just because of the strength of the writing and everything that goes on. Obviously, naturally some episodes are better than others and stronger, but there aren't too many scenes where I think, we've mentioned some of them maybe with Jill and that, but
boring.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd give it a 9.
Yeah. I'd give it an 8.5, and
Sam, give them nothing, Keith. What is this?
I'm the critical
watched it
deep.
three
Sam, I've
times.
watched it three
Three
times for the
times.
podcast on it. 8.5, yeah.
I'm the
It was
critical.
all right.
I'm the deep thinking one. No, an 8.5 is still like great on the scale. Do you know what I mean? No, do you know why? Because, and this is just going to be a little tease, because I know where we're going, and the next levels we're going to.
Well,
honestly,
Oh, really? So
honestly,
it goes up from here.
You boys just fucking wait until season 2, episode 9. That is going to be a 3-hour fucking podcast, man. I'm telling you.
I don't know.
Right now.
Well, we've already established we're cutting a third of that, so, you know. Phil and I will ramble through. We'll do it in like 2 and a bit hours.
Yeah.
No problem.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant.
We cut Sam's bit out, yeah.
No, and I think there are a few criticisms kind of in this first season. Like I say, some of the stuff with the teenagers in the program doesn't really do it for me, and
Good to hear.
yeah. Look, basically just stuff
Reassuring.
we've discussed, but still, it's like it's still fantastic. But like I say, I know where we're going, man. And you boys, you don't even know. You don't even fucking know, man. Anyway, so basically, just to wrap up this special episode, Phil, have you just got any closing thoughts to offer us from season 1?
Yeah, this isn't a show you can casually watch. This is a show that you've got to review. You know, you've got to think about in order to get the most value out of it. And I think that's what's been great about this podcast, is it's given us, each of us, a chance to really think about the show, you know, kind of try and come up with some ideas of what the symbolism means, you know, the running themes. I almost don't want an answer to why people have departed, and I'm weirdly okay with it being left up to the audience to decide what means and what's actually happening. And I know this is so cliche, but I really can't wait to see what happens next.
Good stuff. That's a good place to leave it for Phil. So we'll go straight back into the man himself. And come on, closing thoughts.
Right, I'd rate my performance really good for a start. I'd give it a 9 out of 10 as well. You know, let us know more. Yeah, just to echo Phil, really. It's the kind of show, you know, you need to study it to fully appreciate it, and there's so many nice touches and deeper meanings to be found, which I really enjoy discussing and just experiencing, you know, in real time when I'm watching it. I definitely would have missed tons of things if not for you guys. You know, it doesn't babysit you, so you do really have to think with it. You can't, you know, you can't just check your phone. You do really have to pause it, which, you know, is obviously just reinforces how strong it is, and it gives, you know, they're introducing a ton of themes and they're not giving you clear answers, which we all agree we like. Not sure we'll ever get an answer to most of the mystical elements, although I do think we're at some point going to get an explanation of why people have disappeared, but I think it's going to be really ambiguous if it's the right one or not. That's my personal thought on it, because they've got 2 seasons left, and I do think it'll be like, oh, well, it might be that, but, you know, it's not going to be like a confirmed kind of peer-reviewed answer.
No,
but yeah, I thought the season's really strong.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, my kind of closing thoughts on it is, and I've pitched this program to a few people, yourselves included, and there's a few people that I've pitched it to that I know haven't picked it up, which, you know, they can go fuck themselves. They don't know what it is. But no, for me, and the way I always pitch it is, you know, obviously you talk about, so it's you know, our world, but 2% of the world's population just disappear and all that, and then immediately people think, okay, so it's a program about finding out what happens. And I just say to them, look, no spoilers or anything, but this program is not about that. Even though you've got characters who might well want to know what happens, and you see, you know, protests about, you know, just in the general public of finding out what's going on, this program is about the aftermath of that. And I just love that in media, basically. Like, this may be going on a slight tangent, but in the Game of Thrones books, my favourite one is the fourth one, and it's the least kind of plot-heavy one, but it's after massive plot stuff like, well, I won't say anything that happens in there, but then it's about the aftermath and the characters and kind of like what's left in its wake. And that's how I feel about this program. It's about what's left in the wake of the departure and how people just can't get over it. And I think that's just such an interesting view on things, an interesting take on things, because I think a lesser program with lesser writers, it would just be, focused on a government employee trying to figure out what's going on, and then the guilty remnant are like a background thing, rather than being like one of the main kind of factors in it, even though they are just one of the kind of cults almost that we hear that has kind of sprung up after the departure. So, and that's just the kind of point I make. If anyone out there is going to pitch this program to somebody else, do it in that way. There's no spoilers there, but just as a way to get people interested. But no, I think this is a really, really special program, and I can't really think of too many other series that can go pound for pound, episode per episode on episode with the leftovers. So, as Phil said, I just can't wait to see what happens next in season 2. And
You already know.
He's trying to phone it in there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, but still.
Season 2, episode 1, Axis Monday. Oh, can't wait to see how the plot develops.
No, I mean season 2 of the podcast with you guys and just hearing all of Ant's weird and fucking wonderful ideas.
That is the correct answer. You know what? You know what we'll say. Darwin was controversial, Sam.
Yeah, and that is the best way to leave this, and comparing himself to Darwin. So as always, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a very special episode of this podcast. We'll be back next week with more of your episode by episode goodness as we go right into season 2, episode 1, and we
Shit's
can't
going
wait
to kick off, yo, according to Sam.
Yeah, I mean, can only get better, right?
It's only up from here. Watch you guys be like, yeah, it was shit that was, man. Crap, yeah. Let's end the podcast.
Can't wait for Sam to miss all the kind of obvious things, with bagels and everything.
Oh, shut up. Right, on that note, thank you so much for joining us as always, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Sarah.